As the movie starts, we see a FedEx van stops in front of a house in the middle of nowhere. The man comes down and goes to a garage where a woman is busy doing some steel work. The FedEx guy picks up a parcel and goes back to his van. Then we see FedEx Moscow office where a FedEx system analyst is giving instructions to his workers and installs a clock. His name is Chuck Noland and he travels around the world resolving productivity problems for the company. He stresses that time is the most important factor in their line of work. Then the scene changes and we see Chuck going from Moscow to Paris. He is in a very friendly mood while talking to his colleagues and the pilots. He looks very serious about his work and loves what he is doing. On Paris airport he calls to his girlfriend but she is not available, so he left a message and tell her that he will come soon. He also tells her that he has a severe toothache and he will be visiting a dentist soon. Then he asks his colleague about the dentist he knows. He gives him the address and they board the plane back for the United States. Chuck lives in Memphis, Tennessee with his girlfriend Kelly Frears. Kelly is a PhD student and going to be a professor soon. Chuck and Kelly both are in a very serious relationship and want to be engaged. However, they are unable to marry due to the time demands of their professions. It's a Christmas dinner party and Chuck and Kelly are at the family's house. Kelly's family asks Chuck about his schedule because they want him to join them on New Year Eve. Suddenly he receives a message from his company. He watches his pager and then excuses himself, saying that he has an urgent task and going to Malaysia. Kelly wants him to be with her on the New Year's Eve, but she loves him and wants him to be happy. Therefore, she let him go, but she insists that he must come back for the New Year's Eve. Chuck reassures Kelly that he will come back. They both come to the airport, where Kelly gives him her grandfather's pocket watch with a photo of her in it. He gives her a small box, saying she can wait to open it on New Year's Eve when he returns, implying it is an engagement ring. Chuck departs to Malaysia in FedEx plane, which is also carrying delivery packages. On the way he is sleeping that suddenly the plane shakes and a boom-like sound comes. Chuck wakes up and goes to the cockpit, where he sees the pilot sending emergency signals on the radio. The plane is facing some technical issues, but no one is replying on the radio. They wear the emergency jackets and oxygen masks. Suddenly the plane goes down and crashes into the Pacific Ocean. Chuck sinks along the plane into the ocean, but he opens his inflatable boat which brings him out of the plane onto the surface. He sees that there is a severe thunderstorm, and it seems like to be the cause of the plane crash. He can't see any of the other crew members, and the waves takes him away. He gets unconscious and when he wakes up, he finds himself on the beach of an unknown island. Chuck is worried seeing no one in the surroundings. He shouts if anybody's around, but no one answers. He writes a big text, "Help," on the sand, so that any plane passing by may come to his rescue. Night falls and he sleeps, that suddenly he hears a sound like someone jumped down from the tree. He wakes up and shout, "Who's this?" But no answer. The next morning Chuck sees that his written word, "Help," has been washed by the waves. Now he writes it using wooden logs. He sees that some of the packages are laying on the shores, that are brought by the waves. He collects them and trying to open it, that suddenly he hears that dropping sound again, which he heard in the night. He goes to see that what is it, that suddenly a coconut drops in front of him. He quickly picks it up and try to break it open. After a lot of efforts, he cracks it and drinks it water. He now understands that the sound was of the coconuts dropping. Now he collects all the coconuts and drinks its water. He takes a trip around the island to see if there is someone who could help him. He finds no one, however he sees a cave. He goes near the cave and see that there is no one. Then he sees a mountain which seems to be the highest peak in the island. He wants to go up to that peak to see around and find his location. However, his feet are wounded while walking barefooted on the sharp-edged stones. He lost his boots in the crash too, and therefore he shortens his pants to make covers for his feet. He successfully climbs up that peak and notices something swimming down in the sea. He quickly comes down, and goes to see what it is. He becomes sad and starts crying, because it is the dead body of his plane's pilot. He brings his dead body to the beach and arranges his burial. But before burying, he keeps his torch and shoes. He then buries him, and writes an epitaph on the rock above the burial site. He is now habituated to the life on this island. He survives on drinking the fallen dewdrop on leaves. He wants to catch the fish but unsuccessful. He does not get anything except dewdrops and coconut juice. He totally depends on these things, as there is nothing else to eat on this island. One night it's too hot that he couldn't sleep, he wakes up and goes to the shore to pee. Suddenly he sees a ship in the distance. He starts shouting and wave his hands for it, then he brings his torch but the ship is too far to see a torchlight. Disappointed, he comes back to his bed. Next day, he decides to leave the island by taking the inflatable raft that he has. While escaping, he is drowned in the water because of the strong speedy waves of the ocean. Meanwhile, his leg is badly wounded and bleeds, as he is swimming back to the shores. When he reaches back to the island, rain starts. He quickly goes to that cave which he saw earlier. He turns his torch on to see what is inside the cave. Luckily, he finds a spring of fresh water, which he drinks and then falls asleep. Unfortunately, he forgot to switch off the torch, and in the morning, he sees that all the battery of the torch is drained out. Now he has nothing for light to lit at night. Then he opens those delivery packages, as he is now sure that no one is coming to rescue him. He finds some useful items like skiing shoes that have blades on their soles. A female frock, that has a net-like cloth with it. He opens all the packages except one with a pink angel wings painted on it. He now cuts the coconut easily with the shoe blades. He makes a wooden pointing spear with the help of the blades. He starts catching fish with the frock net, and catch a crab with the wooden spear. However, he can't eat raw fish or crab, so he tries to start some fire. Chuck hits upon a plan as rubbing two kinds of wood, he tries to start fire, but unsuccessful. In an attempt to break a wooden stick, he wounded his hand, which makes him frustrated. Chuck furiously throws several objects of the packages including a Wilson's volleyball, leaving a blood-stained handprint on it. After calming himself down, he draws a face into the blood, makes eyes, nose, and lips on it, shaping it like a human face. He names the ball, Wilson, and begins talking to it. He also makes him his friend. After a few attempts, he is successful in starting a fire. It is the first time he feels happiness after coming to this island. He can now cook food for himself and keep himself warm by starting fire everywhere. Now there is one more problem arises, and that is his toothache. Actually, he took an appointment with the dentist, but meanwhile he got a call from the company to go to Malaysia. Now there is a severe pain in his tooth, and Chucks wants to pull it with the help of shoe blade. And when he pulls it with the blades, he falls on the ground unconscious. In this way he spends 4 years on the island. Now he is used to the life of this island and he learned much for his survival within these 4 years. His appearance completely changes with the big beard and the hair of his head. He is trained so much that he can now catch a fish by throwing his stick. Chuck is now a very close friend of Wilson, with whom he used to talk and share his thoughts. One day Chuck hears a sound of something. Seeing there, he discovers a section from a portable toilet enclosure, washes up on the shores. Seeing this, he hits upon an idea as with the help of this sheet, he can escape from the island. Whenever he tries to escape, the sea waves become the big hindrance in his way. But now he thinks that he has found a solution to it. He begins construction of a raft, using the plastic as a sail. While making a rope from tree fibers, aided by the enclosure sail. As constructing a boat is not an easy task, he takes his time as he decides to escape when the weather is modest. And for the weather to become friendly, there are still a few months to its arrival. He built a raft and put the plastic sheet on it as a sail, so that it can push the boat forward through the water. While he makes a room for himself to sit, and pushes the boat with the help of oars that he built. And then the day comes, when the wind starts blowing in the favorable direction. He put Wilson on the boat, and starts sailing. He faces a high tide in the voyage, but this time he is lucky and passes through it. He is unaware of the directions, and just sails. He sees the island slowly going away and disappearing. He now comes a long way off the island. He has no idea where he is going, but he is sure that he will reach home. But sailing through the world's largest ocean is not an easy task, especially in a small wooden raft. He brought some coconut from the island to drink its water. He also catches fish while sailing and drinks rainwater, which he collects in his empty coconut's shells. At night there is a heavy storm in the ocean which takes away the plastic sail from the boat, leaving it to drift on its own along the waves. In the morning, while Chuck is sleeping, Wilson falls off the boat and floats away. When Chuck gets up, he finds Wilson missing. He starts shouting for it and jumps into the water to catch it. But the distance between them is too much and he is going to lose his boat if he goes after Wilson. He returned to the raft, while crying and says sorry to Wilson. Actually, Wilson had accompanied him for 4 years, therefore he is emotionally attached to it. He is feeling the same way as someone loses a real person. Now Chuck is very tired and weak after sailing for many days. He sees a passing cargo ship near him, but he is too weak to shout for help. He just raises his hand, and luckily they see him. 4 weeks later he is returning home, while his colleague tells him that they were thinking that he is dead. He tells him that they even buried his coffin. Chuck surprises while asks him that what they buried in that coffin. He says that some of his memories, a few pictures and stuff. Chuck is received by the company head and a lot of people gathers to see him. He is broadcast live on television, but he leaves the show and comes inside the building to see if Kelly is here to see him. But instead of Kelly, a man comes out of a room, telling him that he was his subordinate and now he is the husband of Kelly. He tells Chuck that she wanted to come but she is not ready yet to face you. The man leaves, and Chuck is both surprised and sad by hearing that his love has got married to another person. He looks outside the window, and see that Callie was actually here but her husband didn't allow her to see Chuck. They both leave in their car. At night there is a party in Chuck's house and all the company employees are gathered to celebrate Chuck's return. When they left, Chuck goes to Kelly's house. It's raining and Chuck stands in front of Kelly's door without knocking. Suddenly the door opens and it's Kelly. She tells him that she was awake and saw him coming out of the taxi. She invites him inside and tries to make coffee for him, but Chuck sees that she also has a daughter. He thinks that as now Kelly is married, so everything is useless. Now their ways are separated. Chuck returns the gifted watch to Kelly, because it is Kelly's family watch, and Chuck wants her to keep it in the family. Although he tells her that he keeps the photo as it was in his favorite pose of her. Kelly says that, "You had promised me that you will come back." She also told him that she has left his PhD studies incomplete, after his disappearance. Apologizing, Chuck is about to go, when Kelly has a surprise for him. She took him to her garage, and to his surprise it is Chuck's car. She tells him that she kept his car safe and usable. Chuck takes his car and leave. Seeing him leaving, Kelly becomes sad and runs after him. Consequently, Chuck also returns and they embrace each other for the last time. Kelly tells him that she knew that he is alive and was sure that he will come back. She says that she had to marry because she was under pressure from her family. They express their feelings for one another. Chuck tells her that now she has a life, and she must return to her husband and daughter. He drops her at her house and then leaves. Chuck goes to meet his friend and tells him that he had also tried to commit suicide on that island. But then as he would think about Kelly, he would change his thoughts of suicide and promised himself that he has to go to her. Returning back, he knew that he has lost her. Time taught Kelly to choose her life's path, and she got married. Now as Chuck was left alone, but life has to move on. Finally, Chuck drives to Texas to return that angel-winged package to its sender. The one that he did not open while he was on the island. He has now a new Wilson's volleyball. He knocks on the door but there is no one. He left the package on the door with a note saying, "This package saved my life, thank you," and then he leaves. Now we see Chuck on the muddy crossroads, looking at a map. A girl comes in her truck and give him the directions. When she left, Chuck notices that her car has the same wing mark that the package has. Chuck is now looking to her car while smiling, while she goes to the same house where Chuck had left the package and the note. Chuck has now a ray of hope in his eyes. And at this point the movie comes to an end. The movie gives us a lesson that, even when faced with extreme hardship, we have the strength to survive and adapt resilience. By being resourceful and innovative, we can find purpose and appreciate the simple things in life. Also, it reminds us of the deep human need for connection and unconditional love. Thanks for watching.